Hi, everyone, and welcome to another cy.chat at the Talking About Testing channel. Today I'm here with Filip, and we will talk a little bit about Cyprus. Filip is a Cypress ambassador as myself, and he has been working with Cyprus for quite a while, I imagine, and not only working with Cyprus, but also teaching Cyprus to others, which I think it's something fantastic. Um, so, how are you doing, Filip?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure. And for you that are watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and even share this content with other people that might find it interesting. So, Philip, I will leave a few seconds or a few minutes, whatever you want, to introduce yourself, please.
All right. So you mentioned my name is Philip. Hi everyone. And yeah, I'm a tester or software developer, engineer in test, if you like a fancy name. At a company called sli.do. You might have heard of it.
Yeah,
It's popular among conferences, but that's where I landed at my job 6 years ago.
awesome.
Uh, Before that, I actually studied psychology. So I have a psychology background, and but I was always kind of leaning into the tech world. And yeah, people at Slido were nice enough to give me a chance, even though I had very little experience. And there I had the opportunity to grow. And yeah, today I'm leading a team of test automation engineers. I was actually leading the whole QA team, but I decided to leave that to the more competent folk.
Awesome. It's awesome that you have like a psychology background. I spoke with Cecilia a few months ago, and she also has like a completely different background. She came from journalism, then she worked with like trading of stocks and things like that. And
Nice.
at some point, she always liked tech, and at some point she decided to go like full time, just doing like
Yeah,
software development and things like that.
yeah, and I think it's actually really valuable.
Yeah.
And the team that I was able to put together at Slido, like we have a whole QA team, and I think at least like half of the people
Hmm.
actually come from totally different areas. We got a teacher, we got one guy who was studying, was doing like doctorate studies at philosophy,
Yeah.
cognitive sciences, etc. Like from all of these different paths, and I think it really added to a great team, and I love those guys
That's
and what
awesome.
they
That's
do.
awesome to hear. I think this is like a real diversity, right? That we are talking
Yeah, I
about.
mean it definitely adds something
Yeah,
to the team.
for sure. Philip, I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. And the first one would be, when did you discover Cyprus? And when you did, what was your first impression?
That's a good one. So I discovered Cyprus around the time that I arrived at Slido. There were yeah, so Slido was used at conferences, and with that we had a chance to visit those conferences.
Hmm.
And my colleagues went to Bratislava, which is in Slovakia, where I'm based, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And there was actually the founder or co-founder Brian Mann talking about Cypress, and at that time it was just like version 0.19 or something like that, invite only.
Yeah.
But he showcased that on the stage over there, and it was really interesting. And my colleagues, I actually wasn't at that conference, and my colleagues came back, and they knew I was like new in the whole test automation spiel, and they told me, "All right, you should check it out. That was interesting." So I did. I tried to get my invite. I finally got it, and I, before that, I just saw screenshots. So I thought it would be like some kind of a
Record
record
and
and
playback.
replay tool or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And then I open it and it's like, oh, I need to write code. Oh my god, now I'm screwed. But then I looked into the documentation and to the examples, and I was actually able to write a test with the limited knowledge that I have. So that like immediately got me excited about writing tests, and I yeah, and the rest is history now. Now
it's
I'm using
it's
it daily.
it's interesting the fact that documentation was already great before version 1.0, right?
Yeah, and I think they really, really nailed it.
Yeah.
Someone at Cyprus realized that without a great documentation, they cannot build a great product.
Mm.
And I think like my learning path, not only for Cyprus but for JavaScript broadly, was like learning from the Cypress documentation, like learning
Yeah.
from the examples, trying it out, failing, and learning more and more. And I think
Learning about
that's
the
that's
good
like
and
a
the
huge
bad
appeal.
practices.
Yeah, exactly. Like the do's and don'ts,
Yeah.
great practices, etc. That's really really something.
Yeah. I remember listening to a talk, I think, in a webinar or something, uh, where they mentioned someone from Cypress team. I don't remember who it was, but they mentioned how much effort they put since the beginning on building a great documentation. And I think, if I remember correctly, at that time, it was like 40% of the time of the development of the product was put for documentation, which is something to it's something that impress, I think, right? Because they were thinking
Yeah.
about it from day one, I think.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of helped the growth, because if you have a
Yeah,
totally new product,
yeah,
you usually don't have like a community. It wasn't like today, like where you have Cypress, people using
exactly.
Cypress at every corner. At that time, there was no one to ask. There was nothing. You just had the documentation and you had to figure it out,
Yeah,
and it was really helpful.
yeah. Later on, I will ask you about your favorite features, not now, but I'm thinking now that I would love to hear what was your favorite feature when you saw Cypress for the first time, and then what it would be right now. But let's leave that
Oh,
for when the question comes.
all
What
right.
is and what is it like to be a Cypress ambassador, Philip?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes it's kind of hard to put that into words,
Hmm.
because I mean, being Cyprus ambassador kind of gives you that back support. Like you have someone to ask if you have a question. It's really nice if you put out content. Cypress is really helpful with resharing everything and
Hmm.
etc. I'm really bad at marketing. They seem to do a great job at it, and they help me a lot, so that's like I'm really appreciating that. And then also like getting to know people and getting to know the people that are working on the product. Yeah, that's kind of those are like really nice benefits. They don't pay us anything, and I
Yeah,
don't don't think we need that. But but yeah, it's really nice to like get inside and see what's happening, get some fresh news, or this is what we are preparing. That can really like get you prepared and get you prepared for your content if you want to create something.
yeah,
And yeah, so far it's been really nice.
yeah. One of the things that I love about it is to connect with the other ambassadors like yourself. And I had
Yeah.
the chance to connect with Ramona already and with Stefano Magni as well. And
Yeah, Stefano is the best. Hi,
yeah,
Stefano, if you're watching.
he's great, exactly. Yeah, and hopefully we'll have more ambassadors here in the channel as well, so they can share their stories as well. Um, so, Philip, the next question would be if you could tell us about a recent project. It doesn't need necessarily to be recent, actually, but a project where you used Cypress and you were able to do something that it wouldn't be easily achievable. if you were using a different tool.
Hmm. Well, I mean, to be totally honest, I don't really have like the widespread knowledge that would help me like compare different tools one to another. I really kind
I
of
see.
started with Cypress, and I've been doing mostly that ever since. So whenever someone asks me about like comparison, that's like really hard for me to answer because I don't have like enough of the knowledge or enough of the experience.
I see.
But I do really enjoy like the combination of doing UI and API within
Hmm.
one single test, where you can like use the API calls to sort of like prepare your data,
Hmm.
and then just for the UI, just do the thing you are interested in. So if you
Yeah.
need to like log in, or you need to seed some data in, or something like that, you do that with sort of, you do that on the back end or just using the API calls, and then
Hmm.
you open your front end, click here and there, and then finish the test.
Yeah.
So I have been really enjoying that. Not sure how difficult that would be in other tools, but in Cypress it's really easy.
I can tell you it's not that easy. Like it's not out of the box. You have to do some stuff to you have to add the testability in the framework so that it will allow you to do that. I had experiences
Yeah,
doing that
that's
with different tools like Selenium based,
mhm.
and it's possible to do it for sure, but it's not something that it's just there for you to use.
Yeah.
Instead of preparing you to use, you focus on like delivering the value, which is adding the tasks that will, add safety to the team so that they can change the code and be aware if something is broken or not.
Yeah, and that's like really nice thing about Cypress. When you have a blank file, the only
Hmm.
thing you need to do is to write the test itself,
Yeah,
right? You don't like really
set
need to
up anything.
import different kind of stuff which you don't even know that it's there when you're starting, right?
Yeah,
You just go ahead and write your test, and the tools that are bundled in like Mocha and Chai and I don't know what else.
yeah.
It really makes the experience really smooth, especially at the beginnings. You just write your test and you're done with it.
And one thing that you mentioned that I think it's worth considering is like you mentioned that you didn't have any background with others automation tools before, but it seems that so far you were able to do everything that you need with Cypress. So like you you didn't find something that like can't be achievable with Cypress, right?
Yeah.
Or you might have, but like it provides you lots of tools to do stuff, not only interacting with the browser, right? With the front
Yeah.
end, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely find a workaround that is good enough for the thing that you need to
Yeah,
have tested to be tested. For
yeah,
example, I can give you two examples. So one would be like the not being able to open multiple tabs.
yeah,
It seems like a limitation, but if you like dissect the problem and deconstruct it, you kind of find out that you have a really good and really viable options without it. At least that was always my experience, and I
mm,
would kind of bet it would be the experience of many people if they like really dissect the problem and try to look at it. Another example might be like a Google SSO. I've been actually
hmm,
playing with that this week. I was trying to like understand it and try to find out how that works. How can I actually log in with Google if I just cannot go to a third party server?
yeah,
And I was able to put it together, and now I find that, all right, this is not even a limitation. I can actually work with that.
yeah,
So yeah, in that regard, the experience was really good. Like I haven't yet encountered a problem that would just be impossible. Well,
Yeah.
maybe WebSockets a little, but
Mm.
I've been able to find some workarounds also there.
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing that I think it's important to mention that you just said is the fact that like this is from my experience in the past before Cypress. I used to waste a lot of time setting up the state of the app to reach the state I want just to test the feature I want. And with the things that you mentioned, like being able to call an API to create the state through the backend directly and focus your test on what you need to test, it's something that is very valuable as well. Because in the past, like I had experiences where like a test would spend, I don't know, 70% of the time actually setting up everything for just 30% of the time executing the test, what I wanted to validate. And this
Yeah,
is such a waste if we put it in a scale, right? So I
yeah,
think you are bringing things that are like really good practices that we should be using in our tests and that we should be able to use independent of the tool that we are using because it's like it's a good practice is it's at least as I see, you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. um One thing that I am curious about is at Slido, the company you work for, do other people in your team write Cypress tests, or is it only yourself or yourself and a QA team? Do the developers write Cypress tests? Do they fix tests if they break it? How does that work?
And the short answer would be yes. Like everyone you have just mentioned
Yeah,
actually gets involved with Cypress here and there. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
I came to Slido when there were like 30 people, and I was
Hmm.
the only tester there. And right now I think we have 12 people in our team, if
Hmm.
I count correctly, and we have 3 people that are basically just doing test automation. So from 9 to 5, that's their job. That's our job.
Hmm.
But also we come from a place where we would do a lot of things manually, but we
Hmm.
always wanted to combine that with the test automation. So every tester in our team is actually able to write a Cypress test. So
Hmm.
they're working with that. And about a year ago or something like that, maybe even more, I think, we have included our tests with the main repository. So the tests live in the same repo as the source code of the application.
Awesome.
That triggers the pipelines and everything, which in result involves our developers more into writing tests,
Hmm.
fixing tests, and getting annoyed by failing tests. So
I loved it. I loved it because it's something that many teams struggle because they don't have access to the code. Some things that I can't imagine myself working without having access to the code is like sometimes you just need to add some data test attribute in the
yeah,
front end so that it can be testable easily and
yeah,
having to ask someone else to do that for you. And I think one other thing that you mentioned that facilitates things a lot is like when you have the tests and the source code in the same repo, it's easier to do continuous integration and continuous deployment and things like that, right?
yeah. I mean, it's kind of double-edged sword. So if you have your test, it's definitely a better situation, but it doesn't come with its problems, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the problem is, of course, if you have a flaky test or
Hmm.
a badly written test, when it fails, it basically it doesn't allow you to merge,
Hmm.
and it might actually be unrelated to the thing that the developer was developing. So
Hmm.
that's like extra annoyance. But then that kind of pushes you more into understanding more of what's happening within the application, what's happening on the framework, whether there are no like code smells and things get randomly re-rendered and stuff like
Yeah.
that. you really get to dive in into how to uh, change a flaky test into a stable test, and to really add those guards and to dive in the code and understand what's going on. So even if that can be kind of a pain, you gain the benefit of like getting a better knowledge of the application you are testing,
Yeah, for
which is
sure.
super important.
Yeah. As broadly you know about it, the better you think about the quality of the whole system, right?
Yeah.
I, I I'm curious. You mentioned about flaky tests, and this is not in our agenda, but I would love to hear a bit more about like how do you treat these kind of tests, and how do you educate your team and your peers to not to write flaky tests or to identify them, ways to fix it. Could
Mhm.
you briefly talk about it a bit?
Yeah, so we do have like a flake tolerance, right? So
Hmm.
we're using the dashboard, which enables you to, well, it's not only a dashboard feature, but Cypress enables you to retry a test.
Yeah.
But if it's retried, it gets marked in the dashboard as being flaky.
Hmm.
And there are many sources of flakiness. Sometimes it's just your server, right? You're
Hmm.
running your test on some sort of like a staging area or a QA or testing server, and basically that's like 1/10 of the production server, right? It's
Yeah.
much slower. That can cause problems. Sometimes your test is written in not a good way, and sometimes you have problems with the application itself. And there are many sources of flakiness, and what you can do with that is to add some sort of guards, right?
Hmm.
So just yesterday I had a great example of a problem, right? So you are searching in a search box and you type in a text, and as
Hmm.
you type you get API fired every time you hit the
Yeah.
key,
Yeah.
but it has a certain delay. So what they had in test is that they typed in a search query that fired API, and then they selected an option and tried to click on it.
Hmm.
But after, but they selected it in two steps. There was the get command, and there was a contains command, which was chained off the get command. And then
Yeah.
they would try to click on it. And during that time, what would happen? The DOM would get re-rendered with the new results,
Hmm.
and of course you get the famous the element was detached from DOM because it
Yeah.
was, right.
Yeah.
And that's like a small piece of knowledge. If you want to fix that, and just add the selector inside the contains, so you get
Yeah.
selector and the text. That's an easy fix. But if you
Yeah. So
once you
it
know
will
that,
retry if it's not there, right?
yeah, exactly. And once you know that,
Yeah.
you're writing more stable tests.
That's
and
awesome.
and also a big part of that is if you're living inside the source code repo, usually you have some kind of peer review,
Hmm.
and that's super valuable.
Yeah.
And I would suggest you not only include other testers in that review, but also developers.
For sure.
And whenever someone adds a test, it's great to have like the whole bunch of people trying to look at it. And even when a developer writes a test, have it reviewed by testers.
Yeah.
And in our company, I think that added to a great dynamic. We would feedback each other. Testers would feedback developers, developers would
Yeah.
feedback testers. And I think like overall we really learned from each other, not only on how to write a good test, but also on how to make sure it's not flaky.
Yeah. You made me remember a talk I gave when I worked for whereby.com, the video call service that we are using here. And I gave a talk, I think it was in 2017, about my learnings as a QA engineer working for them. And one
Mhm.
of the learnings was that code review was a great way to teach others and at the same time to learn from others. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you just mentioned you were experiencing there, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were actually kind of doing that even on the manual testing level. So uh, we would have this like brainstormings where
Mhm.
a whole QA team would meet. They would tell us like, all right, this is the new feature, this is how I plan to test it, so this is my test plan. And other people would challenge that plan, right? Have you
Yeah,
thought about this, have you thought about that? And the result was just amazing testing and amazing learning on all sides. So if you can do integrate some sort of peer review, do that for everything, not only
yeah,
like test automation. I think it really adds a value to the team.
yeah, yeah. I just love doing or some kind of pair activity like pair programming or pair anything or
Yeah,
sending. I can't imagine like working in a real project not sending my work to be reviewed before it can be, approved and merged back to the main branch or something like that. But
yeah,
I think it's nice that you mentioned about the manual approach as well. I do do send, for instance, like my newsletter for my wife to review so she can catch things that I won't
yeah,
catch even if I read it 10 times because I'm already like I already read it that so much that I don't see the things there anymore.
yeah, exactly.
That's great. So now, what is your favorite feature of Cypress, and what it was your favorite feature when you saw it for the first time?
I I think I think the answer for both questions would be sort of the same.
Yeah.
I think my favorite of all of the Cypress library is Intercept.
Hmm.
Like working with the network and integrating that the HTTP requests, intercepting them, changing them, etc.
Hmm.
That is really what I enjoyed. That is what I actually made a whole course about, just
Me
about
too.
intercept and finding those hard to reach edge cases.
Yeah.
So that's, I can safely say, was or still is my favorite command. And before that it was called root,
Yeah.
and it was, yeah, it was the same, it just had less capability as now the intercept does. They've done a
Yeah.
great job with the intercept. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. It's really one of my favorites as well. And as you did, I also when I launched the basic and intermediate course, and for a long time my students were waiting for the advanced one, and when I came up with it, it was, I don't know, I think 70% related to cy.intercept because it gives you so much power. You can do so
Yeah,
much stuff. One of the things that I like is like you can simulate errors in your server and things like that, which you wouldn't be able to do. Like, I don't know, like say to someone like, turn off the server now that I want to test a
yeah.
failure situation, right? It's not something that you can do.
Turn
Uh,
it off before every release.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, nice. And do you feel now a question for you more related to your teaching activities?
Mhm.
Do you feel that you learn more about Cyprus by teaching it to others? Because I do
Yeah.
feel that, and I just wanted to hear that from you. What is your perspective on that?
100% yes. I
Hmm.
mean, just like 2 days ago or something like that, I have tweeted that when learning something new, I love these aha moments that you get like once you
Yeah.
get something. But what I enjoy even more is like getting to that point where you say like, all right, now I understand it well enough that I can explain it to someone. I
Hmm.
would be able to explain that, and that's like a whole another feeling, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that to whoever is watching this or listening to this is to implement that sort of in the culture of the company.
Hmm.
We had that. We also have this. We would do, it would be like for the whole development team in our company, we call them dev stormings.
Hmm.
But what they would be is sort of like sessions where anyone from the team can take something and teach it to others.
Yeah.
So we were doing, I don't know, we were adding a dark mode into our application. That was a requirement. We had to add it. And our developer was talking about how they did that. We were adding some accessibility features. So they took a time and in an hour explained it to us. I
Hmm.
was also talking about Cypress. I was talking to our DevOps guys and our developers and everyone, and they learned something new. So,
Yeah.
and especially, I would encourage everyone um, to sort of try to learn in public. Like
Hmm.
writing that blog and writing that content, you might feel like no one is ever going to read it, but at the same time, today you know something you didn't know a week ago. There might
Yeah.
be someone who is at that point in their learning,
Exactly.
so they probably find it valuable. So if you had an idea for a blog, go out there, just write it to Medium or what's the other, the Substack or somewhere else. Someone will find the value, and you will find the value too. So definitely, I would say that it is a great way to learn if you explain something to someone else.
I love it. Yeah. I Last weekend I was in a meeting, or it was 2 weekends ago, I think, and the teacher was showing us a slide of different techniques for learning and how much you absorb when you are doing one of these
Mhm.
activities. So, like just passively watching uh, a lecture, or and it was like 5% absorption of what you were listening to.
Yeah,
And if you were practicing it and teaching it to others, it would be like 90%
yeah,
approximately. So in between, there were other things, like if you are discussing with people, you absorb, I don't know, 50%. So I think it's a great advice for sure.
yeah. And do it all, and you're basically becoming an expert.
Yeah, and one other thing that I love that you mentioned is like someone might not know what you just discovered. And I used to blog in the beginning of, like, when I started blogging in 2014, it was for documenting my own learnings. And at the same time, when I started recording videos and uploading them to YouTube, it was just, recording my learnings. And many times people liked it, but many times I had to go over a content that I wrote myself or a video because I didn't remember how to solve a
Yeah,
specific problem, but I already had something there. And I find this is fantastic.
yeah, that's also like great. You're also creating like your own library of knowledge.
Yeah,
And by the
your
way, I used
wiki.
my own blog in the same way. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I wrote a blog about this and I don't remember it. Let me just go have go over to my blog and copy the codes that I wrote
yeah.
some time ago.
When I chat with Gleb, he mentioned he does the same. Uh, Philip, do you have any tips or advice to anyone that might be considering Cypress in their tech stack?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, my advice would be just try it out. Try it out
Hmm.
for yourself. Like write a simple test and yeah, and read the documentation. It's really awesome. So when you try it out, you actually know how to use Cypress, because I find that some people, I haven't had the experience because I had no experience before, but
Yeah.
some people find it confusing
Hmm.
with the whole API and the chaining, and it's all asynchronous, but then again it runs in sequence. So what's up with that? But the documentation actually explains that really well.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. And the other advice I would give is to sort of try to automate the mission critical tests first and see how fast that will go.
Yeah.
And if it goes fast, if you're able to write a great test in matter of minutes, then Cypress might be a tool for you.
Yeah.
If you cannot, if it's hard, if you're finding that you're not able to do just the basics,
Hmm.
then maybe that's not and that's not the case for like Cypress being the best tool. So yeah, just try it out and you'll see for yourself.
Yeah, love both advices. When I started using Cypress, I read a tutorial in the internet. I just found it awesome, and I went through it all. I think the best way to learn it is by practicing. So it was a nice experience, an experience practicing it. And I did exactly as you suggested. Right after this tutorial, I went to the docs and I kind of devorated the docs because I found it so different than what I was used to and how much I could achieve. So I think this is like a really a great advice. Philip, to close the video, I would love to leave you some time to promote any initiatives you have. I know you have a blog, you have your courses, and
Yeah.
yeah, whatever else you have. Now it's time for you to promote it.
Yeah, all right. So first of all, subscribe to this channel. So that's the first thing you do.
Thank
And
you.
then when you're done with that, you can go check out my website. It's philiphric.com. I'm sure Walmir will include the link. It might be hard to spell my name.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
gonna be there.
and there I have all of my blogs. I try to write every week. I missed this week because I was just super busy, but I try to write every week. And there are also courses. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. If you want to learn something for free, then you can also watch my YouTube channel, and or you can go to Test Automation University, which is a great project done by Applitools, and
Yeah,
I have advanced course about Cypress there. And the newest thing I have is the course I actually mentioned. The whole course just about intercept is
yeah,
actually only 15 minutes long, like the whole videos, but it goes like straight to the point, just shows you the example and what you can do with that. So you probably will be learning a lot longer than those 15 minutes. And it can be found on egghead.io, and that's a subscription based platform. But I really suggest you do subscribe. It's actually full of great
it is.
resources, and I think like for front end developers, that might be like the best site to go to.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm also preparing a workshop. That's why I'm kind of busy. And that workshop I hopefully will happen in February. Still don't know because I'm still preparing that. But if you are interested, it's philiphric.com/workshop, and you can sort of join the wait list, and I will definitely let you know once it's out. And it's going to be fun. I have been doing it here in Slovakia and Czech Republic for the whole last year, and I'm bringing it internationally this year. It's sort of changed, so
hmm
but I think it will be even more fun.
yeah. And I have gone through your advanced course on Amplitude. I love the way you teach, and I highly recommend
Thank you.
anyone that is watching to subscribe to it because it's just a great course for sure. And I'm pretty sure that the workshop and I love your shorts as well. I've been watching them recently.
I made
I
three,
Yeah, I
but I will
watched
do
them
more.
all.
They're fun.
I watched them all. I am actually I have to challenge myself to start doing shorts this year. It's something that I put in my retrospective last year, and I promised my audience, so I have to start doing it. And you were inspiring me, I have to say.
It's a great. I mean, it's a great lecturer exercise, like for you,
Yeah,
if you just have like 30 seconds or just 1 minute, and to be able to explain something in that short amount of time, it's a really good challenge to it's a great way to challenge yourself if you're able to do that. So
I
don't
would.
hesitate, try it out.
Yeah, I would love to get some advice from you as well.
Yeah, we
But
can chat about that.
yeah, for sure. So Thanks again, Philip. It was great chatting with you. And for you that are watching, don't forget to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and connect with Philip. Go to the description here. The links are all there. Philip, again, thank you very much. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Bye.